Okay, so now that we have the repos down, we can go ahead and actually get started on working on installing the Pico software. So the first thing we need to do is install. We'll go down here to the instructions. The first thing we need to do is do this vi sudo command right here. So I forget exactly how that command is formatted. So what we're going to do is I am going to SSH into the production one I have running on our ES6i platform. And we'll just copy it from there instead of me trying to remember how I did that. So now you'll see so type sudo vi sudo and it's going to be this go down right here, this command right here, except instead of wcsc we're going to use the name Pico since that's our user. So yeah, so again, this is only for the shell that we're going to do this. So over here on the left, I'll type in sudo vi sudo, type in my password, and then I will come down here to the bottom and I'll just paste that in and then change the username to Pico. Beautiful. Okay, perfect. And now I will exit out of there and exit from the proper server. So now I'm back on my version, not the WCSC one. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to set the permissions for this folder. So they say it's PicoCTF, but ours is actually now named 2020 Cybercamp CTF. So that's what you'll run it on, just like that. Cool. Good. And now we have our permissions set for that directory. So the next thing is we are going to set up a symbolic link. So instead of having like a configuration variable or something that tells you where the files are or something like that, like a lot of programs do, what we're going to do is we're going to create a symbolic link to point to this directory. And so a symbolic link is pretty much just, you can think of it as a pointer. It points to the directory. So when you try to access this symbolic link, it's actually just going to redirect you to where you actually want to be. So we're going to run it like this, remembering that the first argument is the directory we want to be the destination, and then the second argument is the location of the symbolic link. So this will actually be like this, 2020 Cybercamp CTF / PicoCTF. And this is not going to work. So we'll go ahead, we'll run this real quick, and we'll see if I run ls / right on the root, you'll see that red PicoCTF right there. Ooh, that's not good. So let's go ahead and run file on /PicoCTF, and you'll see that it's a broken symbolic link to 2020 Cybercamp CTF. So that's no good. I think that has to do with sudo. So what we actually need to do is provide, instead of a relative path, we need to provide an absolute path. So we're going to go ahead and remove that bad symbolic link, so it's no longer there. And we're going to, first I'll show you my personal working directory. The directory I'm working on now. We are going to, yes. So that's my working directory right there with pwd, you get that. /home /pico, we'll have that. And now you'll see if I do file /PicoCTF, that comes in, it gives you your symbolic link to there. And now it's actually working. And if you see that if I do ls /PicoCTF, voila, it redirects. That's what ls 2020 Cybercamp CTF works like. So it repoints us to where we actually need to be, which is very cool. So now instead of the program needing to know what we've named it and where it is and all that, we can just always use /PicoCTF to find where this directory is, which allows them to hard code a lot of things instead of having to do them programmatically. So the next thing we're going to do is install Ansible. And so I'm going to run this, and then I will talk a bit about what Ansible actually is. Oops. So our directory name is, well, let's take advantage of our symbolic link. We'll do /PicoCTF. Pretty clever. So normally that should have been, we would replace that PicoCTF with 2020, but since we have the symbolic link, let's go ahead and take advantage of it. All right. So this is going to install Python 3, pip, basically everything it needs, and then it'll install Ansible. So Ansible is a bit of software. Let me pull it up for you. Ansible. It's a bit of software, as it says here, open source software for provisioning, configuration management, and application deployment. So the way Ansible works at a high level is you have these things called playbooks. That you define a playbook, and it's a list of actions that you would take to modify a environment. And so what this allows you to do is you can take an Ansible playbook, put it on one machine, get it working, and then you can just take that playbook and run it on another machine, and it will configure those two machines to be exactly the same. So this includes things like setting up the host name, setting networking, anything like that, installing things, really anything you need to do to configure the environment. And so that's how we're doing it. That's going to be extremely useful when we look at the shell server. As you'll see when we actually start working, when we finish running Ansible on the shell server, it's going to be completely different because the shell server is supposed to allow people that we don't know and don't trust to connect to SSH in and run programs without interfering with one another. And so the environment is set up in such a way that they have access to the challenges that they need, but don't have the permissions or the ability to mess with others. So that's pretty nice. We don't have to worry about any of that. We just run the Ansible program. It sets it all up for us. So I'll go ahead, and this still needs to install Ansible, so we still have a couple more minutes. So I'll go ahead, pause the recording, and then I'll come back once Ansible is installed. Actually, I'll go ahead and end the recording here because after this, we're going to configure Ansible. So this is a good stopping point. All right.